In Volume 10, paragraph 332 of his 1964 book, Civilization in Transition, Carl Jung wrote, "Our cerebral consciousness is like an actor who has forgotten that he is playing a role." More on this book later in the video. For now, let's assume you want to start a business, sell a lot of products, and make a few $1 million. Well, the first question is, how do you figure out what people want to buy? The best way to figure out what people really want to buy is not to listen to your customers. I know this contradicts everything you've been told about selling, so allow me to explain what I mean with a story. It was the year 1966, 21 years after the World War II. The Japanese economy was booming, and Nestle wished to dominate a tea-loving country with their coffee product. So they started producing Nescafe instant coffee in Japan. As any entrepreneur will do, Nestle tested the Japanese market cautiously. Many focus groups were created, consumers from every age group were surveyed, and the result was all positive. Everyone loved the taste of Nestle coffee. As expected, Nestle executives got excited and shifted into high gear, preparing a rollout plan to have coffee on every shelf in Japan. Huge sums were spent on branding, distribution, and of course, advertising.
Coffee, Minute Brew. Minute Brew Nescafe is a new discovery, a new way to hold in extra rich flavor. So please help us. Let it brew in the cup a few seconds longer for all that extra flavor to come out. In other words, with Minute Brew Nescafe.
Unfortunately, Japanese weren't buying Nestle's coffee. Nestle executives got frustrated, and then they tried more ads. And more ads. But nothing was working. From 1966 to 1974, the only thing Nestle did successfully in Japan was to burn their money. However, in 1975, the famous French psychoanalyst Clotaire Raphaeli was invited to Japan by Nestle. Clotaire is a superstar of marketing who was well known for his research on the emotional bonds humans form with objects in their culture. Unlike most marketers, Raphaeli was convinced that people can't tell you what they really want because desires that drove human decisions are unconscious. For example, in his 2006 book, The Culture Code, Clotaire Raphaeli wrote, "When asked direct questions about their interests and preferences, people tend to give answers they believe the questioner wants to hear." And on page 19 of his book, 7 Secrets of Marketing in a Multicultural World, Clotaire Raphaeli wrote, "We live in a cultural trance that makes it very difficult for us to see who we really are and why we do what we do. Since you can't make a lot of money except you're selling what people really want to buy, you must know that you can't understand what people want to buy by asking them." The best way to know what people want to buy is to pay attention to what they're already buying. I'll explain this in detail later in the video. For now, let's check another historical example of how people don't know what they want to buy. In the 1940s, after World War II, Coca-Cola held 60% of the market share for cola drinks. But things started going worse during a few decades after then, largely because of competition from this guy. In August of 1980, Coca-Cola had a new CEO, Roberto Crispuolo, but there was no quick recovery. By 1983, Coca-Cola's market share had declined to less than 24%, and Crispuolo really wished to do something about it. A new drink was formulated for Coke under a secret project headed by marketing vice president Sergio Zeiman and the Coca-Cola USA president Brian Disson.
They managed to create a new cola flavor that won taste tests hands down.
Coca-Cola's new product would be a sniper to Pepsi. Because, why not? About 90% of people who tasted it in a blind test said they preferred it to anything else. And on April 23rd, 1985, Coca-Cola released the new Coke.
As Coca-Cola enters its 100th year, We know of no better way to thank the billions of consumers who have made Coca-Cola what it is than to give them a Coca-Cola that is better than ever.
Introducing the new taste of Coca-Cola.
Unfortunately, nobody wanted the new Coke, not even monkeys. After 79 days of hatred for this new product, Coca-Cola reintroduced their old cola on July 11, 1985.
But very rarely can your customers predict something that they don't even quite know they want yet. As an example, no market research could have led to the development of the Macintosh or the personal computer in the first place.
In his 1963 book, Confessions of an Advertising Man, David Ogilvy wrote about marketers of his generation. They are coming to rely too much on research, and they use it as a drunkard uses a lamppost for support rather than for illumination. Now, if multi-billion-dollar companies like Nestle and Coca-Cola cannot figure out what people want by asking them, how can you and I figure out what people really want? Cloutier Raphaeli has a scientific method of discovering what people want to buy, which he used for companies like Nestle, Jeep, Chrysler, Procter & Gamble, Boeing, and a few others. But such method seems to me to be too complex for most of my audience. More so, they arrive at the same conclusion as the simpler method I learned from Gary Halbert. You see, Gary Halbert was one of the smartest marketers of the 20th century. Probably more than anyone in his generation, he made several million in the mail order business. And in 1984, while serving time in Boron Federal Prison, he started writing letters to his teenage son, Bond Halbert. The letters later became a book known today as Boron Letter. I strongly recommend you read it. Now, in Chapter 5 of his book, The Boron Letter, Gary Halbert wrote, and I quote, "You see, the way to deduce what people want to buy is to simply observe what they do buy. But be careful. You want to know what people actually do buy, not what they say they buy."
But I've been using those techniques ever since, and they work. And I ask you, do they not just make common sense?
The best way to sell a lot of products or services is to create or produce what people want to buy. We all know that, right? But how do you know what people want to buy? Well, don't ask them because they don't know what they want. Pay attention to what they're currently buying and give them just that. This, however, doesn't mean you should start another Me Too business or do what everyone else is doing, because if you do, you'll fail. More on this later in the video. For now, let's try and understand why humans don't know what they want. In his 1964 book, Civilization in Transition, Carl Jung wrote, "In each of us there is another whom we do not know." In the year 1915, the Austrian neurologist Sigmund Freud described the conscious mind, which consists of all the mental processes of which we are aware, as the tip of the iceberg. According to Sigmund Freud, this is our conscious mind, and this is our unconscious mind. The unconscious mind rules our life, and the decisions hence we hardly truly know why we do what we do.
如果不是亲眼所见，我是万万不敢相信的。
According to David Eagleman, an American neuroscientist and author of The Brain, The Story of You, 95% of our decisions are made up of our unconscious mind. Because of this, we don't really know what we want to buy or why we buy what we do. According to a 2008 study by Alex Poger, Associate Professor of Brain and Cognitive Sciences at the University of Rochester, even though humans have the capacity to make smart decisions, those decisions are being made by our unconscious mind. Another 2008 study from the Max Planck Institute in Germany found that even when we think we've made a conscious decision, our brain has unconsciously made the decision up to 7 seconds before our conscious mind takes over. Now, this is the reason why people can tell you they would like to buy a particular product while they're answering survey questions with their conscious mind, but in reality, they don't care about such a product.
And you look down in there and the penny's inside the bottle.
Oh!
Earlier in this video, I talked about the fact that the best products you can sell to make a lot of money is the products people are already buying. By this, I do not mean that you'll make a lot of money if tomorrow you start selling cola drinks, mobile phones, or search engines. Instead, I mean you should first identify what people are buying, then make a superior version of that thing they are already buying. There are two ways to do that. First, add a few technologies to an existing market. For example, YouTube is not a new business. Excluding a few technologies, what you're watching now is a TV. Uber is a taxi company. Amazon is a supermarket. And Google is a library. Long before all those companies, people have been buying what those companies are selling now, in another form. The second way to go about this is to creatively add 3, 5, or even 7 elements of an existing business model to create one unique model or product. To do this, you have to be very creative, which is the reason why you should watch the video on your screen right now. This video right here will teach you how to be creative so you can know how to create something unique that people want to buy. See you in the next video.